Salute. Today, guys, we're going to finish up this vocab list. So we're on chapter 4. These are the Roman numerals for the number 4. And in this chapter, we're introducing second declension neuter nouns. All right, we've already met second declension masculine nouns. And the second declension has a variation with the neuter gender. And we're going to take a look at the verb to be in this chapter. But today, we're just going to wrap up the vocab list. So the other day in class, we went over all the nouns in the chapter, and we have kind of a new way of listing nouns. Nouns in Latin are listed nominative singular, which is what we've been doing, and what's called genitive singular. All right, we don't really know what the genitive does yet, but I kind of told you that it translates as of. All right, and in Latin, it's just how nouns are listed. The genitive can tell you what declension the noun is. You can't always rely on this first form. And then the N stands for neuter. So a couple new things here. We'll take a look at what the genitive case does and see it in sentences. But this is your standard format for listing a noun in Latin. Nominative, genitive, and then gender. All right. Any UM noun, though, you can assume is going to be second declension neuter. And we're also going to find out what's a little bit different about that in this chapter. All right, so we had the word for war, the word for plan, okay, and then an old first declension word. You can tell by the A going to AE. That's the genitive in the first declension. And then we had a neuter noun. We had a second declension masculine noun. All right, so this is just like ager, the word for field. And one of the reasons you list the genitive form is to show that it drops the E and kind of stem changes. All right, so every second declension noun has an I in the genitive, whether it's neuter or masculine, and every first declension noun has an AE in the genitive. All right, then we had a basic second declension noun, oculus for eye. Okay, the US to I is the most common type of second declension. All right, and then a couple more neuter nouns. And then we end up with 4 Latin second declension neuter nouns. All right, so let's take a look at the adjectives. So adjectives we've listed them a couple different ways so far, but this is the standard format for listing a Latin adjective, us, All right, and so what's new is this is called a 2-1-2 adjective. Latin only has 2 types of adjectives, and we won't see another type for quite some time. But this is what's called a 2-1-2 adjective. I'll just leave this. All right, so why is it called a 2-1-2 adjective? Well, because this represents second declension masculine. This represents first declension 1, feminine, and this represents second neuter. So 2-1-2. All right, and so adjectives, they can be any gender to match the nouns that they're describing. So this particular adjective, the definition of it is pretty, beautiful, or handsome. You may have heard like bellissimo, Italian uses this. The name Bella comes from this, Belle, from like Beauty and the Beast. So depending on what you're describing, you would use either the second masculine if you're describing a masculine noun, first declension if you're describing a feminine noun, or second neuter if describing a neuter noun. So adjectives can be anything depending on the gender of what you're describing. All right, so these are all going to be 2-1-2 adjectives. And every adjective we have for quite some time is going to be a 2-1-2 adjective. All right, so bonus, really common adjective in any language. And bonus means good. Bueno in Spanish. Humanus, kind of random, but humane or sophisticated. Can even just simply mean human. Malus. All right. This means bad or evil. This appears in a lot of English words if the meaning is bad, like malice, M-A-L-I-C-E, or malevolent. If you're a malevolent person, you wish bad things to happen. Malpractice. Malaria. Malaria means literally bad air. It's like the flu. Okay, parvus means small. Oh my God. That's Wilson. You can have a parvovirus, which is a small virus. Okay? That's very relevant. All right, stultus means stupid or foolish. All right, you can stultify someone. You can like confuse them, make them foolish. All right, and one more. Verus, 212 adjective. Get the name Vera from this, and it means true or real. Okay, verify. If you verify something, you're making sure it's true. Veritable. Okay, then verbs. All right, so remember, we list verbs with principal parts. We only really use these first two principal parts so far. And ARE, I look at that, and that tells me that this verb is first conjugation, which means it uses A's to connect those OST, must-tis endings. And its definition is to help or aid. We don't get much in English from it. Okay, and then this is the verb to be. And so its principal parts are crazy. We're going to take a look at the present tense of the verb to be in this chapter. And you always learn the verb to be in any language pretty early on. You use it all the time. If I say the teacher is Mr. Palladino, that's the verb to be, is. If I say I am a teacher, that's the verb to be. And sum is how you say I am. And then its infinitive form, esse. Remember, the second principal part is the infinitive, and that would be to be, literally, which we're also going to put as the definition, to be. All right, now, conjugation-wise, it doesn't have a conjugation. It's an irregular verb. So all languages have irregular verbs that just have their own forms. We can't apply the rules that we know of so far with verbs and are, using a vowel and then connecting OST, must-tis, in. It's got its own forms, which we're going to take a look at. But lucky for you, Latin really has very few irregular verbs. Learning English, English has so many irregular verbs that you just have to memorize and know their forms too, and which makes English a very difficult language to learn. Luckily for you, you've been speaking it since you were very little, so you know it well. But Latin has very few irregular verbs. Most of the verbs in Latin fit a system, which is nice. So that rounds out Chapter 4's vocab. So we have some adjectives, okay, and they're listed with the genders, masculine, feminine, neuter, which represent the second declension masculine, first declension feminine, and second declension neuter. And so what I wanted you to take away from this is just that adjectives, they can get any of the endings depending on the gender of what you're describing. So an evil man would be malus, wir. An evil woman, mala, femina. Or maybe an evil, let's use one of our new neuter nouns, an evil war would be a malum bellum. Okay, so adjectives have to be able to fit whatever noun you're describing. All right. You should have copied this into your notes, and I guess that's it. All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be working with these, and I will say walite to you. All right. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and bye.